Alright guys, just a quick truck update. Things have been happening, just very slowly. So we got some of the intercooler piping fabricated here. So I got the cold side done. So like I was saying, to make all this work, you end up cutting off these little beads that keep your boots from blowing off, which isn't good. So I actually got this idea from the internet. Lots of great ideas on the internet. So here's a cut-off piece. Grab a different one. Choose a good one out of my selection. So I watched a video and this guy took a pair of these crimps. These are meant for non-insulated terminals. He took them and cut them off right here and used them as a tool for putting that bead on, which I thought that's a good idea, but I only have one pair of these. So I went through my toolbox, found my linesmans, which have a crimp on them as well. I was like, well, that'd probably work perfect. It's even wider than the other crimps. So I took the extra pair of those and chopped them off, welded the handles on backwards. So now you can take that and make your, see if we can get this on camera. So you just take and slip that in there and just squeeze it. It doesn't take a lot. It's aluminum, so. And then you just kind of slowly work your way around the pipe. And it's not nearly as pretty as the one from the factory, you know, because I use like a fancy machine, and it does leave some like high spots. This would look a lot better if I cleaned up at the end of the pipe, but basically it'll do the same thing. It'll work, and no one will ever see it because it'll be under a silicone boot. So that's my trick for the day. Over here making tools. We're gonna sell them on the internet. If I'm gonna sell them, I should probably make them so that they're straight. So anyway, got part of the intercooler system done. We got the lower radiator hose done, so it doesn't look perfect, but it'll work. So that's now in. So we now have an upper hose, lower hose. Once I get the coolant reservoir in and the heater hose is hooked up, then that system will be ready to fill and work and everything. I did work on the piping for this side. I had to order a few more boots and some different angles. So I got the lift pump off the truck, or transfer pump as they call it. It's on the back side of the Huey pump, like way up in here. So I had to take out the inner fender well and like climb up in there, and it took me 2 hours to get that out. I'm not proud of that, since it's like two 5/16 bolts. Hey, did you notice someone cleaned my garage for me? So these lift pumps are really simple. There's not much to them at all. So that bolts onto the back of the engine, well, the back of the Huey pump. Then there's a cam lobe that goes inside of here. So as that spins, it pushes this little piston down, and here's a cutout. So it's basically 3 check valves all kind of facing the same direction, and the one in the middle moves. So it sucks fuel in here when that piston goes up, and then when it pushes back down, the fuel comes to this side, and then when it comes up, it pushes it out here. So I took it all apart, cleaned it up. Didn't see anything like catastrophically wrong with it. The only thing that I did notice is when I was cleaning it, I tried to push fluid backwards through this valve here, and fluid was coming back out. So I flushed it back the other way and then tried to go again this way, and so there must have been a piece of something stuck in there, and that valve wasn't sealing, which could have very well been our issue, because if that wasn't closing, once some pressure started to build here, things aren't going to work right, you know. So we're going to go ahead and get this back installed. prime the system, try it again, and if that doesn't work, we're going to try switching to a different fuel supply to the pump and see if that makes a difference or not. And we're just going to do some troubleshooting, try and figure out what the computer isn't liking. Other than that, I don't think I've really done anything except for clean the garage. I mentioned that twice because I usually, every video, I'm like, oh, this garage is a mess. It still is kind of a mess in some spots, but it's less of a mess now than usual. My memory serves me correct. The last video I shot, we tried to get the truck running and could not. And I tracked it down to the fuel transfer pump because the engine wasn't getting fuel. So I pulled the pump off, which is a pain. Getting that pump out of there was like, for the first time I did it. Spoiler alert, for the first time I did it, that was like a 2.5 hour job. And then getting it back in was not any easier. So I pulled it out, cleaned it out. I found that the one of the check valves was sticking open. And so I cleaned it out real good. Figured maybe there was a little piece of chud or something in there, just, you know, screwing everything up. So put it back together, threw it back in, got it to start, got it to run for a couple minutes. Still didn't have coolant in it, so I shut her down. Went to do something the next day, and when I went to start it, it kind of did the same thing that it did that first time, where it fired and then died and then wouldn't start back up again. And so I got a new transfer pump, figuring maybe one of them check valves was you know, just wore out, sticky or something, and so it just keeps getting stuck open. So for the second time I pulled that pump, put a new one in there, primed the system, and I checked for leaks basically on the suction side from this pump down there, because that was another thought I had, is we're getting air in the system somehow, and that's what was causing these issues, because fuel's siphoning back to the tank and somehow air is getting into it, and so it's got a little bit of fuel, so it'll fire up and start and then immediately die, and then it won't restart because it's airlocked. I also got a new filter. Don't even get me started on this filter. If you're doing anything and you need a fuel filter, do not go on eBay and buy the cheapest water separator with a hand pump that you can buy. Well, this is going to be a 20-minute video if I go into that. So anyways, long story short, I wanted a new filter for it because when you pump it up and start to get things up to pressure, the bowl on the bottom would start to leak, and I tried to tighten it and it didn't help at all. So I figured maybe that's where we were getting our air from. So I crossed the number on the filter, and the one that they sent was about half the size. And so it was just an ordeal trying to find the right size filter, because who knows? These Chinese manufacturers just slap a number on it and they're like, they'll figure it out. So anyways, new filter, new pump, primed it, fired it up, ran. Oh, before I changed the pump, that's what, like, so I went to do a coolant flush, filled the radiator and everything up with water, went to start it to let it run, you know, to flush the system out. Couldn't get it started, and then that's when I changed the pump, you know. And I just bought all this distilled water because I'm that type of person. I don't want to put hose water in there, so I got distilled water, and I got a couple jugs of that radiator flush soap crap, so I poured all that in there. So I didn't want to waste all my, you know, I probably had $6 worth of stuff in there. So I just left the truck, and you know, it's winter out, so I checked the forecast, and it was supposed to get warmer through the night. And someone botched that one, because when I woke up it was 15 degrees outside. So luckily I was smart about it, and well, I was smart about being stupid. I plugged in the block heater and I set it up on a timer so that it turned on for like 30 minutes every other hour. So that kept it warm enough. Plus it's in this awesome shelter, my garage in a box. I don't know if you noticed, but the longer this project goes on, the more permanent my structure gets. I mean, we got like rafters in here now and places to store my garden implements. So changed the pump the next day, got it running. Okay, I gotta go. Bye.